What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Waxman, Tyler Lavalette, two guys talk sports. Let's go! Alright, and thus, another college football season in the books. Or, some may argue, the last season of college football as we know it in the books, with all the realignment going on, but we're not here to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about is my thoughts from the championship game. First and foremost, congrats to Michigan, well-deserved on winning another national championship and their first since 1997. And I will say this, not surprised Michigan won, although I thought the score was going to be a little closer, but a lot of those scores that Michigan got were in the end, especially when Washington was just worn down. But before, the game was close for the most part. I thought, Michigan came out of the gate strong, and of course they never looked back, and the outcome was never in doubt. But there were some moments where I thought Harbaugh kind of called the game a bit conservative and could have attacked Washington more, but at the end of the day, hey, we're not if you're a Michigan fan, you're not complaining because Michigan's defense, it was their night. They were in control of that game the entire way, and Michael Penix and the Washington offense never really got going, and they just never got comfortable. Michigan made life a living hell for them all night long in that game, especially for Michael Penix, and who I feel really bad for because, of course, not only did Washington lose the game, but Michael Penix himself, he got the hell beaten out of him. Like, he got the absolute shit beaten out of him, and he's going to be feeling it for days. And there's and it would not surprise me to learn that he has some broken ribs or some kind of undisclosed injury, which he sustained in that game after taking quite a few hits. And sadly, that's going to hurt his draft stock in the NFL. I have no doubt he'll get drafted, but that may hurt his stock a lot because he has unfortunately had a history of injuries, and that's just another one he didn't need. Now, I applaud him for playing in this championship game, and you know what? Kudos to Michael Penix for playing it all the way through and finishing the game. Playing the full 60 minutes, not coming out. Just unfortunately, it just wasn't Washington's night, and one can make the case that they got a rude awakening and a rude welcome into the Big Ten. I mean, and that should be a message to the rest of these Pac-12 schools that are joining the Big Ten. It's not going to be easy to adapt. Like, that first season's going to be a rough one for those. Could be a rough one. Like, they'll still do well. Like, most of them will still make bowl games. But for the most part, it'll be rough entering the Big Ten for those Pac-12 schools that are going on to be Big Ten schools. But start to finish, dominant effort, masterclass coaching by John Harbaugh, aside from a few plays where he got conservative, of course, but he didn't have to do much. His defense, that defense did all the work, and eventually the offense helped pull away in the end. And so it doesn't surprise me that Michigan won it all. I thought it would be a closer battle, but that being said, not surprised about the outcome, and it's a good national championship to close out the. It's kind of the end of an era in multiple ways. The end of college football before the realignments I mentioned, but also the end of the college football playoff before the expansion. This was the last one. So, and I remember the first one was a Pac-12 Big Ten, and then the first one was Pac-12 Big Ten, and then the last one Pac-12 Big Ten, and Big Ten won both times. So the Big Ten wins the first college football playoffs, and then the last one before the expansion of the playoffs, Big Ten wins the last one as well. So once again, congratulations to Michigan and all their fans on a well-deserved national championship. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Michigan, but I do like Jim Harbaugh, Don, so happiest for him. All right, speaking of football, so this is going to be all football today. Now I'm going to move on to the coaching carousel. I'll keep it in college football for a little bit. So I just learned this. Me and Tyler Lavalette just learned Nick Saban is retiring. That's right. He made one last playoff appearance before retirement. So one could make the case that maybe, just maybe. Okay, what I'm about to tell you, I'll get to in a moment. Not a big fan of Nick Saban, but no denying the greatness and the success that he had at Alabama, and even before then. Seven national championships. Sorry. My fingers are all messed up. I'm messing up my counting. I can't count. So he had 7 of those, and 6 of those came with Alabama. So he delivered 6 more national championships to Alabama, and a lot of success be in like other bowl games and that stuff. So congrats to Nick Saban on a great career, and I wish him all the best of what he does next. Not a big fan of his, but no denying what the man has done for college football. He'll be in the College Football Hall of Fame if he isn't already. But that Alabama job, now the door's open there, and that's going to be a very popular job. I'll be curious to see who takes it. And one has to wonder, here's the thought that I've been pondering. Did college football just have its Jay Wright moment? For those of you who don't know, Jay Wright was a college basketball coach for the Villanova Wildcats, and then suddenly out of nowhere he retired. This retirement, I thought Nick Saban would go on a few more years, but this retirement to me is a bit surprising. I wasn't expecting to hear about this, but hey, perhaps Nick thinks, all right, I'm done. Either that or with the whole, maybe Nick Saban isn't a fan of the realignment, which is hence why I think this could be college football's Jay Wright moment. Who knows? That's for us to ponder. Now, moving on to NFL. So we know that Washington has parted ways with Riverboat Rivera, or Ron Rivera. So, I mean, I like Ron Rivera, but for Washington, it was time. You've also got the Chargers and the Raiders. Both of them had interim coaches. There's job openings there. Also, and correct me if I've missed any. Now, here's one, and then the Atlanta Falcons firing Arthur Smith after, I think, 3 seasons. Can't be too surprised. I think that was a coach that was in over his head. And just more so outsmarted himself than he outsmarted his competition. So, to think about that. And then, here's one that really surprises me. The Titans firing Mike Vrabel. Like, what? Okay, so maybe things got a bit stale in Tennessee. But last I checked, most of this is not on Mike Vrabel, at the very least. Like, 90% of this is, at the very least, 90% of this is not Mike Vrabel's fault at all. Ownership and management stripped that Tennessee Titans roster down. Like, the trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles, and then, of course, Derrick Henry's going to be a free agent after this, and then Tannehill, of course, having a bit of, he's been declining. And then there was another, I can't remember the guy's name, but another really good player for the Titans, and he got traded too. So a lot of their best players either are going on to be free agents or got traded before 2 seasons earlier. So, and that's not on Mike Vrabel at all. And honestly, Mike Vrabel, I think, got the most out of what he had in Tennessee. His teams have just been lacking talent the last 2 years, so I don't think that's his fault. And I haven't. Okay, so maybe things got a bit stale. He's not perfect, but I don't think it's his fault that Tennessee's in the situation they're in. But yet, ownership and management seem to think so, and that's their loss. Mike Vrabel, he's gonna be a hot coaching candidate. Like, there are gonna be teams that are gonna be looking at him. I would be shocked if Vrabel doesn't get another coaching job. I think somebody is gonna hire him. Maybe the Chargers, Washington, the Raiders, the Patriots could be a big-time destination since he used to be a coach there. If they decide to move on from Bill Belichick, which I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots did. By the way, still no word yet on whether or not the Patriots are going to move on from Belichick, but that decision will be made in the next few days. But if they do decide to move on from Bill Belichick, I wouldn't be surprised if the first call they make is to Mike Vrabel. I think he would fit in very well in New England. I would have loved to have him in Chicago. But, of course, for those of you who do not know, a decision has been made in Chicago. The Bears are keeping Matt Eberflus. However, now, Eberflus is staying, but the same cannot be said for Luke Getsy. That's right. Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, canned. After 2 seasons, he was canned. So, I don't know how to feel about the Bears holding on to Eberflus. All I can think is, we'll just see where this goes. I hope this works out, but I also partially have a bad feeling about this. Like, I know we don't want to move on too quickly from coaches, but I'm just, after watching that game against Green Bay in which the Bears were unprepared for, they looked bad, I don't know. I just don't know about keeping Eberflus. Well, we'll see how it works. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he continues to do well. Now, completely agree, though, with dumping Luke Getsy. Just never really put together a consistent offensive game plan or a competent one. And you know what? Something tells me he was a double agent for Green Bay. I mean, he did, after all, come from the Green Bay Packers. So, message to the Bears, stop hiring people from the Packers. Please, for goodness sake. So, I agree with moving on from Getsy, although it means one thing. We'll see where this goes. You know what? We are probably not going to learn till March about this, but what is the fate of Justin Fields' future in Chicago? Are they going to move on from him, or are they going to keep him? Based on the signs, seem to be pointing towards the Bears moving on from him, but we'll see. I think that, you know what, the biggest thing that we could say about Ryan Poles, the general manager for the Bears, he's putting on his poker face, and we can't read it, so we don't know for sure. He's talking about, and he said a lot of good things about both Caleb Williams, who is perceived to be the number 1 pick in this year's draft, as well as Justin Fields, who has improved a lot in his time at Chicago. We'll see if that improvement was enough for Justin Fields to stay in Chicago. But, you know, this could go, once again, this can go a number of ways. I know they kept Eberflus, but that doesn't mean they're keeping Justin Fields, though. With a new offensive coordinator, one of the things that they may use to bring in a popular hire or a good hire for an offensive coordinator is that guy may get to pick the quarterback for the Bears. We'll see. It's a guessing game from here on out, and once again, we can only guess on what Poles is going to do. He's got that poker face on. We shall see. That's all I can say about that. I hope Fields stays in Chicago. I want him to stay. But it's not my decision to make. And if that game against Green Bay was the last for Justin Fields, well, it's been fun watching him in Chicago. And I just wish the Bears had done more for him then. So, anyway, that's my talk about the coaching carousel that is now going on in the NFL and some of the firing. So, some of the ones we're still waiting on for. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot one more. Seattle is moving. Seattle and Pete Carroll going separate ways. I don't know exactly the details, but Pete Carroll will no longer be the head coach of the Seahawks. So they're looking for a head coach. They could be another popular destination for a guy like, say, Mike Vrabel, if things between him and New England don't work out, or the interviews between him and New England don't work out. So that's your coaching carousel. And of course, as I mentioned, New England, we'll see. Kraft and Belichick are having conversations. We'll see how this goes. All right, enough talk about that. Let's make some playoff predictions, shall we? All right, I am going to start with the American Football Conference. First up, we got the Bills and the Steelers. So Steelers get that final wild card spot, and a lot of it due to the fact that, oh my god, a lot of it due to the fact that the Jags and the Colts choked. I will say the Colts overachieved this season, but you can't give Colts fans much comfort after missing the playoffs by one game. And then the Jaguars, they were 8-3 at one point and went from 8-3 to missing the playoffs. Ouch. And I think the downslide all began when Trevor Lawrence got hurt. The same thing happened to Cincinnati. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Back to the Bills and the Steelers. Interesting matchup. Of course, the Steelers got that strong running game, but that's a Steelers team that is injured to hell. We don't know if TJ Watt's going to play. I have a feeling he's probably not going to play. I could be wrong. Mason Rudolph will be the starting quarterback because their starter, Kenny Pickett, is out for the season. Of course, Najee Harris has been doing really well. And you got George Pickens. But that being said, I just think that the Bills have been riding a high these last few games. They went from it looked like they were dead and they were going to miss the playoffs, but they got their shit together, rose up, took the division away from Miami, and here they are hosting a home playoff game. And right now, the Bills might be the hottest team in the AFC, at the very least. So with all that being said, I think the Bills' offense is going to be. I mean, Steelers will have will keep things interesting thanks to their running game and a couple other things, but I think the Bills' offense, as well as an improved defense, is just going to be too much. I think they're going to be just too much for the Steelers. I'm going to go with a score of 35-21 in favor of the Bills. Now, the next matchup, I'm going to talk... All right, next matchup on the AFC side of things. Okay, sorry about that. Just Kansas City and Miami. Oh, boy. You know, I've been kind of leaning towards the Dolphins on this one because the Chiefs have shown they're beatable. They got no wide receiving core besides Travis Kelce, and Mahomes is not doing all that bad. It's just his receivers are dropping the ball. But of course, Miami has also been on a downward spiral too, and right now they don't look so strong. At one point, they were looking like possibly the favorite to come out of the AFC, and right now they're on the road. They held the lead in the AFC East for most of the year, and then squandered it in the last week of the year. Now they're on the road at Kansas City, and rumor has it, it's going to snow. I do think this one, I see a low-scoring affair on this one. Got a low-scoring affair. I think Miami still has a lot of the weapons, including Tyreek Hill, who unfortunately as of late has been dropping a lot of key passes. But I still see him having a strong game. But with that being said, with the weather and the elements being the way that they are, I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one, 21-10. I just think warm weather teams don't do well in cold weather games. Just ask the 81 Chargers. So, going to go with the Chiefs over the Dolphins, 21-10. Okay, and finally you got Cleveland and Houston, an intriguing matchup. And congrats to both teams on getting to the postseason. Like, holy cow, who would have thought either of these teams would have been in the playoffs? Congrats to Houston, they deserve it. They hit it, and it turns out not getting that number one pick was the best thing that could happen to Houston. They ended up with C.J. Stroud, and who has surprised a lot of people, including myself. Right now, he is playing well as a quarterback. Now, whether he'll continue to develop that beyond this season remains to be seen, but so far, Houston's in good shape, and they've got their quarterback. And I think C.J. Stroud, for the most part, though, aside from, it's hard to tell what the future is going to be like, but I think C.J. Stroud has a bright future in the NFL, as long as he continues to put the work in. The guy's got a good attitude, and he'll continue to do well as long as he keeps that good attitude and that work ethic. And Cleveland, in another team, injured to hell, and here they are, still making the playoffs as the highest wild card, of course. They were even in the hunt for the AFC North. Just came a little short, but they've had quite a season thanks to that ferocious defense. Whew! It's not something you want to mess with. Obviously, both of these... How about this? The battle of the franchise... Battle of two cities who lost their original franchise. Cleveland lost the original Browns, or the old Browns. Now they have the new Browns. And then Houston, they lost the Houston Oilers. And now they got the Houston Texans. I see... I'm going to go with a unique score. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. I'm going to go with an interesting score. 16-13 in favor of Cleveland. I think that defense is just going to be no disrespect to Houston. I like C.J. Stroud, but I think that defense is just going to be too much for that Houston offense. I'll go 16-13 in favor of the Cleveland Browns. On to the NFC side of things. And just to put I'm just going to make this really easy. So far, Cleveland's the only team that I've picked as one of the wild cards to win over the home team. And the NFC, I'm just going to go with this. All the home teams win. So spoiler alert, I predict that all the home teams this weekend will win. That's right. So I'm taking Dallas over the Green Bay Packers. There's questions of, Dallas is good, no question. They are very, very good. It's just a matter of which Cowboys team are we going to get. The one that is at their best when they're playing their best, or the one that just disappoints easily in the playoffs. We just don't know. But I don't think it's going to be this round. Green Bay, of course, here we go again. We may be looking at another era of Green Bay dominance in the NFC North. But that being said, I think, and Jordan Love, he's starting to make me eat some crow. He's making me eat a lot of crow. I didn't think he was going to be that good, but here we are. But I think he's going to have his hands full with this Dallas defense. But I do think this game is going to be really, really close. 21-17 in favor of the Dallas Cowboys. And finally, you got Detroit and the Los Angeles Rams. All right, first of all, I'm not a Lions fan. I don't like the Lions, but Lions fans, congratulations. Welcome back to the playoffs and your first home playoff game in a long, long time. It's about time you Detroit sports fans had something to cheer about. So I'm happy for you guys. Okay, not a Lions fan, but I am happy for the Lions. I like Dan Campbell. It's a good bunch that he's got going, and he's got a bunch that's ready to fight and ready to win in the playoffs. They got the talent. All the pieces are there. It's just a matter of execution and coaching. And how about this? Fittingly, you are playing the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford, your former quarterback. That's right. It's a homecoming for Matthew Stafford. He will return to the city he once played many seasons in the NFL for. Now, instead of looking to lead you guys to the promised land, Stafford's looking now to break your heart. But with that being said, Detroit, in the Super Bowl era of the NFL, Detroit has only had one playoff win. Now, that being said, I think this 2024 is the year Detroit, at long last, gets that second playoff win. I think the home field it's going to be a great game. High scoring. Lot of freaking scoring. That's my prediction there. So I'm going to go with a score. Whew. Alright. I'm going to go with a score of 42-38 in favor of the Detroit Lions. Lions, about time you get that second playoff win. I think it happens this year. And I think and instead of Matthew Stafford breaking your heart, I think it's Dan Campbell and Jared Goff breaking the Rams' hearts. And by the way, this will also be this could be a revenge game. This is a bit of a revenge game for Jared Goff as well, because he used to play for the Rams. So let's not overlook that. 42-38 Lions is my prediction in that game. High scoring affair. Whew. Should be exciting. And maybe a bit stressful too, if you're a Lions fan. Okay, and then finally, Tampa Bay and Philly. Who would have thought Tampa Bay would be back here after Tom Brady retired? But Baker Mayfield is getting a new lease in his football career in Tampa Bay. And he's actually done pretty well these last few weeks. And the Buccaneers actually look pretty modest. They look strong. And you're taking on a high-flying Philadelphia team that has been on a downward spiral. At one point, we were looking at Philadelphia as the best team in the NFL. Now they don't look so much like the best team. They look like a team that is having a Super Bowl hangover. All right. And you know what? I'm going with Tampa Bay to win this game. I think the Eagles, I don't think they're going to solve their problems. I think there's just too much going. Something's wrong, and I just don't know what, and I don't think the Eagles are going to solve it. I think Tampa, it'll be close. It'll be like really, really close. And I think there'll be plenty of scoring. But with that said, I'm going to go 34-27 in favor of Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. So that's my predictions for the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. We'll see how I do. And hey, if you guys want to leave your predictions in the comments below, feel free to. I'd love to see your predictions. All right, on to this day in sports history. Sorry about the length of this video, by the way. This is a very big one, folks. And on this day, the 10th of January, 1982, the NFC Championship Candlestick between the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. We get one of the most iconic moments in NFL history, the one we know as the catch, in which Joe Montana throws a clutch ball to Dwight Clark, who makes a fingertip catch for a touchdown with 58 seconds remaining. And with that moment right there gave birth to the dynasty of the San Francisco 49ers. You can make that case. They went on to win the Super Bowl against the Bengals 1 week later. And the Cowboys, who had been one of the best teams in NFL history, they ended up going in that moment right there sent them on a downward spiral that lasted until Jimmy Johnson showed up in Big D. All right, sports fans, that is all for this Waxon Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the football games this weekend, everyone. Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, signing off.